There's nothing worse than throwing the best tee shot on your card and following it up with the worst approach to the basket. This is something that I've noticed amateurs as well as professionals struggle with at times, and today we're going to talk about those fairway shots and how we can clean up our footwork to make those shots more consistent. Let's get into it. There are so many talented players that can throw incredible tee shots, but a lot of times less experienced players have a lot tougher time throwing from the middle of the fairway. Why is that? Tee pads are way more forgiving than throwing behind a mini marker because there's no limit other than the concrete to where our plant foot needs to hit to throw. With a mini, there is only an 8x11 sheet of paper that our final step can land behind in order to throw the disc without committing a foot fault violation. So a lot of players I've worked with obviously are great at tee shots and have no problem there, but once they get behind that 8x11 sheet of paper, they really struggle. When I ask players that I work with if they actually practice behind a mini, a lot of them say they don't. So today, I'm going to show you how to start practicing those fairway shots behind your lie. Now we're up the fairway, we're at the lie. The number one mistake I see players make is not knowing how long their footwork is or where to align their footwork when they're throwing from the fairway. Because like I said, you can do a somersault on the tee pad and throw a shot and have it still be legal. When you're in the fairway and you've marked your lie, you only have this amount of space to land your final step. So when you line up, it's really important that you know your footwork and what it looks like much better than when you're throwing from a tee pad. So really the hardest point I want to drive home in this video has to do with alignment and where we position ourselves before we throw our fairway shot. The tip I'm giving you now has to do with having great footwork, where both feet are in their lanes, moving linearly together. You can find more information about this in my X-Step deep dive video that we did in season 1. But essentially, we first have to pick a direction that we're throwing. Where does the disc initially want to travel? So obviously in this situation, we want to go right down the tunnel here and up to the basket. So we should, in our mind, draw a line from down there all the way through the mini and back indefinitely. The big tip, and this is for people with good footwork or who are striving for good footwork, this line that we're drawing down our shot is only for the front foot. The back foot should never cross into this line behind the mini. And what that means is that when we see that line and we draw the line, we're gonna back up. And instead of staying in this line and beginning our approach, keeping the feet in their own lanes, we're going to take a step to the left for a lefty, to the right for a righty, and get our body into the lane of our back foot. Then when we begin our approach, and this is for a righty, we can get our front foot in its proper lane. Now they're in the right spots, and now we can move linearly down the line to throw the shot. A lot of players, when they're backing up and aligning, they'll see where they want to go, and then they back up, and this is where they are. They'll stay right here, and they'll start right here. And what this does, just like I said in the X-Step deep dive, now the front foot and back foot are in the same lane, back foot now has to fall back, and we ruin our alignment essentially. Now obviously it's good to practice the proper footwork and over time gradually build that proper movement, but for now, if you just want to optimize what you have, it's good to have either a smartphone tripod or something or someone to help you film yourself throw from directly behind you. This will allow you, when you're practicing, to see if you do have proper movement with your feet, or maybe you're someone who likes to over stagger on the final step. You like to push the foot way out this way, or you're someone who likes to swing even with the back foot when you throw. If you have a tournament coming up next weekend, you're not going to magically fix that. So what to do is, once you film yourself from behind and you discover what kind of movement you do with your feet, then you can adjust your alignment behind your mini accordingly to make it at least a little easier now to throw with more balance. So say you're someone who does step even with their back foot when you throw. The tip about this being the line of the front foot would not do anything for you, because that front foot is gonna wanna stride off the line and not behind the mini. So for you, in tournament, you're lining up your shot, you know your direction, step in the other direction. Take your approach here, 1, 2, stride even, and now you're behind the mini. If you're someone who overstaggers, space your footwork back and take a big step in the other direction because you know that final step is gonna get there. This is all lining up the final step. So now you can take your approach, 1, 2, big stagger this way, you're behind your mini and you have plenty of space to throw. I just want to reiterate one more time. I'm not teaching you to stick with improper footwork forever, especially if you're really someone who wants to rise through the ranks of tournament golf and become an elite player. It's good to always be practicing the proper footwork and the proper alignment. But if you know your footwork is not perfect and you do have competitions coming up, it's okay to align around your current footwork and work within that skill set to do the best you can at whatever competition you're at. So the second point that I need to make has to do with a mistake I see players make even if they have fantastic footwork, and that's not properly spacing the final step for the shot they're trying to throw. So the main mistake I see players make is having too short of a final step for how long the shot is that they're throwing. So you'll have a player in the middle of the fairway having to throw pretty hard, take their approach, and they stunt the length of their final step. It'll hit early, and then they'll fall over their shot, breaking their timing, and it ruins the consistency of them throwing that shot from behind their mini. So when you're lining up this shot in the fairway, a big question to ask yourself is, how hard or how soft am I throwing this shot? The harder you throw, the more you get to that maximum extension that you're comfortable with your feet. The more finesse you throw, everything shortens up a little bit. That way you will set up that foundation to stride to throw way more consistently, and you won't have those situations as often where you pinch yourself behind your mini and break your timing. And that's one of the main mistakes I see players make that mess up their fairway shots, and it makes it much more inconsistent than when they throw from a tee pad. Okay, so a quick recap. Know how your feet move and align yourself behind your mini accordingly. And 2, know how long that final step needs to be for the shot you're trying to throw, and place your cross step in a very careful position to set a foundation for the final step. For even more content and more information, make sure to watch this episode on the Disc Golf Network.